Welcome to The Debate, Knowledge Reloaded, where old ideas meet new minds. So, we currently have roughly 40 more hours of free time a week than our average ancestor did, say, a century ago.
Which is wild to think about.
Right? But somehow, we have never felt more exhausted. I mean, you wake up and you immediately check a dashboard.
Oh, yeah. The morning data download.
Exactly. A little screen tells you your sleep score, your readiness metric, how many calories you burned yesterday, your screen time.
You step out the door with a perfectly curated podcast queued up at like 1.5x speed.
Yes, because you have to ensure your commute is fully optimized for self-improvement. We use AI to schedule our meetings, draft our emails, manage all these minute details of everyday life.
We've basically engineered the ultimate system for managing existence.
We have, and my stance today is that our relentless drive to optimize is hollowing out meaning. I argue we've started treating every empty moment as wasted time, viewing life as a metric to be conquered.
And I will be taking the opposing view. As usual, I argue that efficiency and optimization genuinely improve our quality of life. Criticizing optimization or romanticizing some slower, inefficient past is frankly a luxury of the highly privileged.
Well, let's get into it. Because what if becoming better at managing our lives is actually making us worse at experiencing them? At what point does optimization stop serving life and start controlling it?
That is the central question. And to explore this, we are looking through a pretty unexpected historical lens today.
Yeah, Kakujo Okakura's The Book of Tea, published in 1906.
Which is an unconventional choice. Just to set the baseline for our listeners, Okakura was obviously not writing a productivity manual.
No, definitely not.
He certainly wasn't predicting artificial intelligence or the smartphone. He was exploring the aesthetics of the Japanese tea ceremony. The philosophical value of simplicity and perfection, and the Taoist and Zen rituals that shape them.
Right. But his exploration of emptiness provides this striking, almost jarring contrast to our modern optimization culture. Let me start by just diagnosing the modern condition as I see it.
Go for it.
When I look at our culture today, I see what the philosopher Byung-Chul Han describes as the burnout society. We have turned human experiences into raw data points.
Okay, but data's useful.
Sure, but sleep isn't rest anymore, right? It's a score you have to beat. Walking isn't a physical experience of the world. It's this auditory void that requires a productivity podcast to fill it.
I feel attacked.
I do it too. But even meditation, the ancient practice of literally non-doing, has become a performance metric on an app where you're incentivized to maintain a daily streak.
Right, the gamification of doing nothing.
Exactly. Oliver Burkeman calls this the limit-denying delusion of productivity. It's this fantasy that if we just optimize our schedules enough, we will finally clear the decks, get everything done, and become invincible.
Okay, I see the romantic appeal of that framing. I really do. But let's look at the actual utility of what you're criticizing. You are treating measurement as if it is inherently alienating.
I mean, isn't it?
No. Efficiency is the primary engine of human progress. It has improved medicine, transportation, communication, basic survival. When someone uses a wearable device to track their heart rate variability, they aren't hollowing out their life.
Well, they're turning their body into a machine to be monitored.
They are empowering themselves with biological reality. If you have an underlying heart condition, an Apple Watch tracking your vitals isn't a limit-denying delusion. It is a vital tool that keeps you alive.
Okay, fair point. But I am not debating the life-saving capacity of medical technology. I am critiquing the psychological framework we apply to the entirety of our existence.
Meaning what, exactly?
Because we treat everything as a project to be optimized, we lose the capacity for what Han calls contemplative lingering. And this brings me directly to Okakura.
Ah, right, the Book of Tea.
Yes. In the book, he draws heavily on the Taoist concept of the vacuum. He points out that the reality of a room is actually the empty space within it, not the roof and the walls.
The usefulness of a pitcher is the empty void where water goes.
Precisely. By constantly trying to eliminate empty time in our schedules to be productive, we eliminate the vacuum. We lose the very space where unscripted human experience actually happens.
Wait, let me make sure I'm following you here. Are you suggesting that an empty, unstructured schedule is inherently superior?
I'm suggesting it has value we are ignoring.
because you're presenting this Eastern aesthetic as if it's just sitting around doing nothing. But the Zen monks who created these aesthetic systems were exceptionally disciplined.
Of course they were.
Senno Rikyu, the greatest of the 16th century tea masters, he perfected a ritual where absolutely nothing was left to chance. The size of the room, the placement of the hearth, the exact sequence of wiping the utensils.
Right.
It is a strict algorithm for aesthetic experience.
The tea ceremony itself is highly optimized.
It is intensely structured, yes, but its structure serves a completely different master. The structure of the tea room is designed to frame emptiness, whereas our modern structures are designed to eradicate it.
That's an interesting distinction.
It prompts a question I think we really need to wrestle with. When did an empty moment become a problem that needed solving?
What do you mean?
Think about waiting in line at the grocery store or sitting on a train. The instant a modern person experiences unstructured waiting, the smartphone comes out. We treat the empty moment as a bug in the software of our day. Let me challenge that directly. I don't buy the premise that empty space is magically enriching all on its own.
You don't think letting your mind wander is enriching?
I think the idea that people in 1995 were living these rich, contemplative, imaginative lives while waiting for the bus is a historical illusion.
Oh, come on.
I'm serious. Before smartphones, people stared blankly into space or they read the ingredients on the chewing gum wrapper. The vacuum you're romanticizing was mostly just boredom.
But boredom is where creativity starts.
Maybe, but if the vacuum is just empty space, a blank canvas, why is filling it with an article or a text to a friend inherently worse than filling it with a highly choreographed tea ritual?
Because of the psychological posture those two different tools put us in. When you pull out the smartphone to scroll, you are subjected to an algorithmic flood of information.
To engage with the world.
But it's endless. Byung-Chul Han notes a major shift in society from the disciplinary you must of the industrial age to the you can of the modern achievement society. You can work anywhere, you can connect anytime, you can learn a new language while waiting for the bus.
And you see opportunity as a burden?
When it is limitless, absolutely. That limitless can becomes a tyrant. It's the reason you feel guilty sitting on your couch on a Sunday watching a movie.
Because you could be doing something productive?
Right. A voice in your head is whispering that you could be listening to an audiobook on real estate investing or answering emails. You end up exploiting yourself.
Okay, I see where you're going. How does Okakura fit into this?
Well, Okakura talks about the tea room as the abode of the unsymmetrical. Things are purposefully left unfinished or asymmetrical so the imagination of the guest can participate and complete the picture.
It invites you to engage.
Yes, it leaves room for you. Our digital capitalism doesn't invite your imagination. It floods your nervous system so there is no room left for the incomplete.
Okay, I understand the distinction you're making between being invited to participate versus being flooded. But if both the smartphone and the tea room are tools, the difference, as you seem to be getting at, lies entirely in the design and where they direct our attention.
Exactly that. The tea room was designed to focus attention. The smartphone is designed to fracture it.
Fair point.
And the author Jenny Odell speaks to this brilliantly in How to Do Nothing. She argues that the attention economy actively destroys our ability to notice our physical reality.
So she's advocating for a digital detox?
No, and we absolutely shouldn't reduce the tea ceremony to generic modern self-help advice either. Like mindful slowing down. That misses the profundity of it.
Then what is the deeper relevance?
The deliberate allocation of attention to something profoundly ordinary.
I need a concrete example of what you mean by allocating attention to the ordinary in this context.
Okay, there is a famous story about the tea master Senno Rikyu and his garden path.
Oh, I know this one.
Right. So he asked his son to clean the path leading to the tea house. The son swept it meticulously. He washed the stepping stones until everything was pristine and perfect.
Highly optimized sweeping.
Exactly. He reported back, but Rikyu said it wasn't right and told him to do it again. So after hours of exhausting work, the son said, "Father, there is nothing more to be done. The steps are washed, there isn't a single twig or leaf on the ground."
And Rikyu disagrees?
Yeah, he replies, "That is not the way a garden path should be swept." Rikyu then walked over to a tree, shook it, and scattered a few gold and crimson autumn leaves across the pristine, wet stones.
It is a striking image.
By shaking the tree, he was basically undercutting his son's perfectionism.
He was introducing the pathos of things, the mononoa where. He was showing that sterile, optimized perfection is dead. The art was in the organic beauty, directing the guest's attention to the transience of the autumn season.
But the sweeping was still necessary.
True, the meticulous sweeping was required as a baseline, but the life of the garden was in the deliberate inclusion of the unoptimized leaves. Odell argues that taking back our attention from the digital grind and placing it on a leaf, a bird, or physical human being is a radical act of political resistance.
Against an economy that wants to monetize every second of our awareness.
Yes!
It's a beautiful story, and the aesthetic appeal is undeniable. However, I think you are setting up a false dichotomy here.
How so?
You're framing this so that paying attention to a scattered autumn leaf is experiencing life, but paying attention to data is alienation. I reject that. Tracking my steps or my sleep is a form of paying attention to my physical reality.
But it's mediated by a screen.
My biology, my heart rate, my physical fatigue, these are as natural as Riku's autumn leaves. Why is analyzing the data of my own body considered a hollowing out of life, while admiring a flower is considered true experience?
Because measuring a phenomenon is fundamentally not the same as experiencing it.
Explain that.
It's like trying to enjoy a beautiful symphony, but instead of listening to the music, you are obsessively staring at a decibel meter.
That's a bit extreme.
Is it? Yes, the decibel meter is giving you accurate data about the sound waves, but you are entirely missing the music. When you look at your sleep score, you are looking at an abstraction of your biology, rendered by a proprietary algorithm.
You're getting an objective reading.
You are outsourcing your internal awareness to a device. You wake up and instead of asking yourself, how does my body feel this morning? You check your phone to have a machine tell you how you feel. That is the definition of alienation.
I think you are underestimating the capacity of the human mind to integrate data without losing the plot.
I don't know. A lot of people seem to be losing the plot.
The device just gives me a baseline. Much like the meticulously swept path in your story, knowing my baseline allows me to make better choices about how I expend my energy that day. The data doesn't replace my feeling, it validates and contextualizes it.
But do we stop at the baseline? That is where the danger lies, especially as we bring more sophisticated AI into the mix. We are moving toward a world of total smoothness.
Smoothness? Like frictionless?
Exactly. Hahn has a brilliant critique of this. He uses the analogy of Jeff Koons' art. You know, those shiny, highly polished balloon dogs?
Right, the giant metallic ones.
Yeah, they are completely smooth. There are no seams, no rough edges, no friction. They just slide right through your perceptual field, offering no resistance.
And you're contrasting that with Okakura?
Yes, with the Japanese aesthetic of wabi-sabi that he highlights. Wabi-sabi values raw, untreated wood. It values asymmetrical raku pottery. It values the visible patina of age. It values the friction and the seams of existence.
So your argument is that modern optimization is trying to turn human life into a Jeff Koons sculpture? Just a frictionless, polished surface?
Precisely. We want a frictionless life. We want our food delivered without ever having to speak to a human being. We want algorithms to pick our music so we never have to suffer through a bad song to find a good one.
We want AI to write our difficult emails.
Right, or mediate our conflict so we don't have to face the friction of searching for the right words or facing someone's emotional reaction.
Okay, but let's separate logistical friction from emotional friction. A lot of friction in life is just logistical drudgery.
Sometimes, sure.
If an AI can schedule my meetings, filter my spam, or optimize a global supply chain, that removes friction, yes. But it frees up my cognitive load to focus on higher-order problems or to actually spend quality time with my family.
But does it actually free you up?
I don't need emotional growth in my calendar management. Is it really a moral failure to eliminate the friction of mundane tasks?
The issue is the bleed-over effect. When we become completely intolerant of friction in our logistics, we slowly become intolerant of friction in our relationships, art, and our inner lives.
That's a slippery slope argument.
Maybe. But Hahn focuses on the German word Erfahrung. It translates to experience, but specifically an experience that is painful, transformative, and involves encountering the negative or the unknown.
The kind of experience that changes who you are.
Yes. Think of it structurally, like lifting weights. Psychological muscle only grows through microtears, through the friction of struggling with a hard concept, a difficult conversation, or a moment of failure.
Okay, I follow the analogy.
If AI smooths out all our decisions, our work, and our consumption, our psychological muscles atrophy. We risk eradicating a faring. We lose the struggle that gives life its weight.
I won't concede that efficiency inherently causes our psychological muscles to atrophy, but I will acknowledge that an intolerance for friction is a legitimate danger.
It really is. If we use AI to optimize away all failure, all awkwardness, and all uncertainty in human interaction, we lose something fundamental. The Japanese pottery you mentioned earlier, rakuware, it was actually a revolutionary equalizer in the 16th century precisely because it wasn't the flawless, hyper-expensive, perfectly symmetrical Chinese porcelain favored by the elite.
Right, it was rough.
It was rough, local, and shaped by the unpredictable, chaotic nature of the fire in the kiln. Its imperfection was what made it profoundly human.
Yes, and Rikyū took that philosophy and embedded it into architecture. He created a tea room with a niji-rikuchi, a tiny crawl door.
Oh, where they had to duck to get in? More than duck. Samurai actually had to leave their long swords outside, and wealthy lords had to bow their heads and crawl in on their hands and knees, exactly like the peasants did.
Wow.
He used the physical friction and the humility of the space to strip away their societal metrics. In that room, you weren't your rank, you weren't your wealth, you were just a human being encountering another human being. It was profoundly unoptimized for status, but it was perfectly designed for connection.
The parallel there is very stark. Our modern metrics, our follower counts, our productivity scores, our net worths, our sleep streaks, these are the swords we carry into every room today.
Exactly. We never put them down.
And I agree we need spaces where those metrics are forcibly left at the door. But I maintain my stance that the solution is not to burn down the metrics or throw away our technology.
Well, I'm not saying burn it all down.
But Rikyū didn't hate the high-quality Chinese porcelain, right? He just knew it shouldn't be the only standard of value. Similarly, efficiency is a vital, incredible tool. It lifts humanity out of poverty, it cures diseases, and ironically, it gives us the very free time we use to sit around and complain about having too much technology.
But that free time is immediately colonized by more optimization. We take the time saved by the washing machine, we fill it with side hustles, fitness optimization, and personal branding. We literally do not know how to exist in the vacuum anymore.
That is a behavioral failure on our part, though, not a flaw in the concept of efficiency itself.
Is it a personal failure when the entire economy pushes you to do it?
Yes, because we have agency. If we use the time saved by an algorithm to relentlessly track our steps instead of reading a book, staring at a tree, or talking to a neighbor, that is our choice. We have to learn to draw a boundary.
A very difficult boundary to draw.
True, but we have to consciously decide which parts of our lives are domains of optimization and which parts are domains of experience.
But drawing that boundary requires an immense amount of deliberate intention, because the gravity of our culture pulls us relentlessly toward treating everything as a project.
I think we are arriving at a nuanced shared understanding here. It seems we both agree that efficiency is incredibly valuable when it serves life.
Yes, agreed.
But it becomes toxic, even dangerous, when life itself becomes the thing we are constantly trying to optimize.
Exactly. When the dashboard replaces the windshield, we are in deep trouble.
The dashboard versus the windshield. I like that.
Yeah, if you spend your whole life looking at the dials inside the car, your sleep score, your productivity metrics, your heart rate, you never actually look out the window to see where you're driving. You completely miss the autumn leaves scattered on the path.
The dials keep the engine running, and I will defend them to the end, because a broken engine leaves you stranded. But they aren't the journey.
They aren't.
The journey requires friction, it requires spontaneity, and it requires us to sometimes put the phone down, ignore the metrics, and simply encounter the world in all its asymmetrical, unpolished reality. We must preserve those inefficient, incomplete moments.
Well said. As we wrap up today's discourse, I want to pose a question directly to you listening. Look at your own dashboard. What part of your life have you been trying to optimize that might be better simply experienced?
Leave us a comment and tell us what this discussion made you question. or perhaps what metric you might choose to leave at the door today.
If this episode made you think differently, feel deeply, or take action, then the knowledge has reloaded.